Okay, so let's finish up the last part of Chapter 1. And as you can see, so far we covered what is marketing and sports marketing and why is it unique, how is it different from other forms of marketing. We're now going to transition kind of into some current issues in the sport industry, both issues and potential growth and opportunities. And so it's kind of a look forward and a overview of what the industry is all about. So we'll first start with marketing myopia. So what is it? It's a terminology hopefully you read in your book, but marketing myopia is a lack of foresight in marketing ventures. And it's, in other words, there are things that are occurring in the industry that should not be so because they're essentially not looking forward and only looking back. It's this mentality, if it's not broke, don't fix it, right? And in some respects, that statement is true. If it's not broke, don't fix it. Or we've always done it this way, so we're going to continue to do it this way. But what could happen is, what happens when you don't check if it's broken? If you think it's not broken, and it truly is, you can have a lot more problems than if you don't actually look at what's going on. And so marketing myopia is essentially looking at the way things have always been done and never checking yourself on it and just continuing to do that. And so marketing myopia is, again, a lack of foresight in marketing ventures. So we're going to go through some of these signs. In other words, what are some things that, if we look in the industry, people are doing that are showing these signs of myopia. So the first one, and again, all of these are negatives. They're not things you should be doing. But one sign of marketing myopia is that we're focusing on sales instead of customer needs and wants. I worked in professional baseball. My job was marketing and sales. And essentially customer satisfaction is a big part of that. But sometimes people that work in sales will focus more on the numbers game. And that, yes, and I agree with the fact that if you sell more, you make more. But if it's starting to come through your conversations with your clients that you're more worried about making the sale than about their needs and wants, then you're going to have problems. In other words, without customer satisfaction, you don't have customers. You don't meet their needs and wants, you're not going to keep them. And without customers, you don't have revenue. And so the whole idea of focusing more on your sales number than understanding the needs and wants of consumers really is the problem. So instead of asking, how can I increase my sales, you may want to ask the question of, how can I increase my customer's utility? Going back to that term of utility. What am I satisfying? What satisfying power am I providing my customers with my product? And this is kind of my advice. It was given to me when I worked in baseball, and I give it to my students as I go through. Regardless of whatever industry you're in, maybe you don't even end up in sports, everybody sells. And what I mean by that is, at some point you're going to sell something. And so a lot of people go, well, I don't need to worry about sales because I'm never going to do it. Well, yeah, you are. You're going to sell something. You're going to either sell yourself. Think about what is a job interview. That's what it is. You're selling yourself. You're selling something you believe in, and you're trying to convince other people to believe in that product. You're selling your organization. Whether it's, for example, you work in the community relations department of a professional sport team, and you're trying to get people to participate in a reading program, kids to participate in a reading program to give back to the community. You're having to sell that there's a value in that reading program. Maybe you're not getting on the phone every day and calling 50 to 100 people asking them to buy a product, right? We're not cold calling. I'm not going out and having sales calls with people. You're still selling something. So you have to market yourself. You have to do something that's going to make yourself and your product stand above all the others. Give them something they can't live without. Give them that utility. And there's a lot of ways to do that while you're in school. I know a lot of people, for example, take online classes because you work full-time. That's something in and of itself, to show an employer, while I was getting my degree, I was doing something, either working, volunteering, doing an internship. Do things that build that resume, that give you something to talk about in an interview. So there's my advice soapbox for the day. But so what are some other signs of marketing myopia? Some things that are not always good things is a lack of foresight in marketing ventures. Well, one of them is focusing on winning. Well, we've already kind of talked about that, and that we have an inconsistent and unpredictable sport industry, and so if we market winning, we're marketing something we can't guarantee. Well, winning is great, but it's not everything. In other words, we cannot guarantee a win, and marketing a win is a huge risk. So we have to, again, focus on the product extensions, but start making promises you can keep. In other words, ensure that they're going to have a good time at the game, regardless if it's a blowout and their team loses. Winning helps, but should not be our focus. And so in that, a lot of times people do that. Another one is promotions and marketing are the same thing, right? When people start to think that they're the same thing, then you have a problem in your marketing department. In other words, we could always give out a bobblehead, and we can always give out coupons as people leave the game, or do different types of gimmicks. And yes, those things can help us increase attendance, but that's not everything. The marketing mix is all 4 Ps: product, price, place, and promotion. And us as marketers, our job is to not just focus on the message we're sending customers, which is important. Those are our promotions. But we also have to make sure we focus on the things that are part of this marketing mix, creating a product that is great. So focusing not just on promoting the product, but also promoting what utility will be created in it. Same thing as you talk about understanding the price that you're setting. Is it deemed to be fair and acceptable? And so understanding promotions and marketing aren't the same thing, and promotions is just one element of the marketing mix. Another sign is the statement, we're only competing with the team in the next closest city, right? In other words, I'm working for the Dallas Cowboys, and my only other team I'm competing with, or only thing I'm competing with, is the Houston Texans, right? Well, that's wrong, because if you look at it, we're talking about discretionary spending. For example, the Atlanta Hawks did a study that found that their fans are 30% more likely to attend movies than the general population. So you could say, well, if I'm the Atlanta Hawks, I've got a problem in that I'm competing with some movie theater. So what do? They start taking ads out in movie theaters. In other words, we already know that these people are more likely going to go to the movie, so why not get in front of them where they're at? And so we're competing against any other type of entertainment option. In a lot of ways, we're competing against the couch. We're trying to get them out to our games, and if we're not getting them to our games, then we better be competing for our broadcasts. So in other words, we're competing for every consumer's entertainment dollar. Another statement is today's sponsorships will get us through next year's season. That's not the case, or until next season, that is. That's not the case. If you look at sponsorships, what are sponsors actually wanting out of a deal? At the most basic level, they want attention, right? They want people to know and associate their brand with the sport product. They want the fans who are, again, we've already shown to have high levels of discretionary spending. We want, as a sponsor, for them, when they think of the Texas Rangers, they think of us as the brand, as the Texas Rangers, us being the sponsor. In other words, we want to show results from the amount of money that we're spending for our marketing dollar. A sponsorship is not a donation. A sponsorship is a payment in return for some sort of exposure. And so how do we go about proving there's an exposure for a sponsor? Well, it has to go back with, are there eyeballs on the sponsorships? So the phrase that we always like to use in sports marketing is cheeks in seats and eyeballs on sponsorships. Not these cheeks. Cheeks in seats, therefore people in seats will have eyeballs on your sponsorship, which then provides a value for that outfield sign or that halftime entertainment sponsorship or the coupons being passed out at the end of the game. We have to show results today or tomorrow's contract's not going to get renewed. So those are signs of marketing myopia. When you get in the industry and you start to think about marketing, those are things that are common mistakes. Well, what does the sport industry look like today? Well, the sport industry is advancing on a lot of fronts. The number one is technology. For example, social media is continuing start to evolve into something that many times we don't understand. Look at just first real use of Twitter to try to engage with fans. These are some pictures and some tweets from Shaq. Shaq was one of the first athletes while he was playing to be really engaged with fans. You can see the top one, it says, on my way to Barber Square, it's statue time, which is the picture on the right here. He basically went out, set it at Harvard Square, and sat there like a statue, and people walked up within an hour or so, at 30 minutes to an hour, and people started taking pictures with him. Obviously, he signed autographs. I talked to him afterwards, and then thanks to his fans who came out and followed him. I mean, he had over 3.2 million fans. Another one at the bottom, it says, anybody in Portland right now, anybody in Portland touches me right now will get 2 tickets. I'm at the Red Star Cafe. So within 20 minutes, people showed up, and 2 people got courtside seats to the game. And these are ways that Shaq is just one athlete that's been able to engage in social media. And again, advancing in technology. Same thing with virtual reality. We're not sure how that's going to work out in sport. It's starting to evolve as we speak. I'm sure as soon as this video is recorded, something else is going to come out. Second one is that we're starting to see new consumption opportunities. So pretty much every sport at every level has some sort of internet live feed. For example, in 2015, I believe, ESPN signed a deal with your very own SFA. ESPN3 now broadcast all, at this point in time, all but baseball and softball events on campus. If they're at home, then you can watch it on ESPN3. That was never really the case in the 90s and even the mid-2000s. Now we're in the mid-2010s, and that's something that's really changing the game. A third one is that we're starting to see innovative partnerships with corporations starting to be formed. So retail partnerships as an example. So you see Nike and Apple technology with your shoes connecting with your phone and your music, and all of this technology being used together to try to sell sport products along with other technology or other products out there. Another one is the development of modern sport facilities. Throughout history, if you look at even in the 60s, 70s, those types of facilities were built to be multi-use facilities, meaning you can hold multiple events, an all-inclusive type of facility. We started to see a shift towards more of a single-use facility, and now we're shifting again back towards a similar multi-use type of facility, but being more of a one-stop shop for entertainment. For example, there are 2 different images, there are 2 different facilities shown here. The one on the left is the Staples Center. It's part of LA Live, which is managed by a company called AEG. LA Live, a part of that is nightclubs and condos. ESPN has a office there, has different types of entertainment activities all in one area where you can go to the game and then go to the club or the bar afterward, or go home, work and live in the same area. And this idea of this entertainment district is starting to evolve into something sport related. On the right you can see, and then we'll talk more about the O2 Arena later in the semester, as well as LA Live. But the O2 Arena is an all-inclusive facility where it has shopping and retail and movie theater, as well as a basketball arena and concert venue. The last one, the last one that I want to mention is that there's new markets starting to develop. Action sports and mixed martial arts used to be known as niche markets. In other words, they're markets where very few people watched. There wasn't very much of an opportunity. With the adoption of technology, satellite technology specifically, sports like mixed martial arts really blew up. And now we see action sports, mixed martial arts. Same thing can be said about CrossFit. It has really moved from the niche sport to mainstream sport. So kind of wrap up this whole chapter. Sport is unique. It's not like any other product. We've talked about the 5 different ways that's the case. We have to understand that there are differences in sports. A lot of that comes back to the social identity that people have and attach to sport consumption, as well as the behaviors that come from that. We also need to be able to meet the needs and wants of our consumers with little control over the product mix. And then finally, our media and innovative technologies have really given us marketers in the sport industry new tools to work with to try to encourage consumption. So this is the end of chapter 1. Make sure that you've completed your reading quiz as well as the assignment before you move on to the next chapter.